Good morning, everyone. Bianca from WAM Workspace and VA Bootcamp. Excited for the last day of Technophobe No More. We thought to offer a few opportunities for people to ask any questions that they might have on Technophobe No More or the VA Bootcamp training or anything really that relates to the virtual assistance business and space. And I thought also to do a little workshop on niching, and I think it's a really important aspect for getting into the virtual assistant space. And I think really for any online business, there kind of tends to be this sort of concept that if you are working as a business in any particular business, that there's so much competition out there that how will you ever get work? Whether this is web design or graphic design or virtual assistant or travel agent or just about any job in the world, there are hundreds and thousands of people that do that job. And there is always business and there's always clients. And I think it's something really important to talk about. So this is the only slide. I just thought to have it there as an introduction and for the YouTube opening image. But I'm really just going to focus on talking to you guys. But before I get into talking about niching and asking questions, I thought to let you hear from Michelle. Michelle was a travel agent for 20 years and joined the WAM Workspace team last year. And we thought to give her an opportunity to just sort of let you know her story a bit. So Mish, if you can raise your hand, that'd be great. And then I can bring you on stage. If I can figure this out. Oh, they invite to stage. I'll just give it a minute. I know it weirdly takes a little while for you to actually reflect. And pin myself and make sure I can see you. There we go. Hello, Mish.
Hi.
There
Can you
you
hear me?
are. Yes, I can.
I'm trying to turn my video on. Oh, now I'm very close. Hi.
Hi.
Closer than I wanted to be. Especially in this heat, so I'm having like a little meltdown here. Hot
I'm
flashes
sure.
going on. Oh, it's too hot. Yeah, so a bit about me. I worked in travel for 20 years, 20 plus years actually. I'm still sane somehow. Not quite sure how.
Yeah, none of us know.
Miracles. Well, I'll tell you what, it prepares you for anything else life throws at you. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So, COVID hits. I got retrenched, like a lot of people in travel. The industry's really taken a knock. So, standing joke of my entire family, friends, anybody who knows me is I saw Bianca post on Facebook that she runs a virtual assistant business and she's looking for somebody. And I thought, oh, I can do that. I've got loads of experience dealing with all sorts of different admin people. I've got the skills. Let me do it. Not realizing that Bianca is a tech-based VA business, which is slightly different and more complicated than a normal business. But anyway, here I am. She hasn't fired me yet or killed me yet. So, I must be doing something okay. Thanks to lots and lots of training, I think. So, yeah, guys, honestly, it's been so worthwhile. It's something that just changes the way you think about everything. I've been lucky. I've managed to do the VA Bootcamp training with Bianca, which, wow, taught me so much. I mean, my friends all laugh at me and I throw all these words around like, so I was on Canva and then I scheduled to Publer. And then I went on to WordPress. I did a gravity form and I think I'm so clever. I am. So just even doing the Technophobe no more, that was my starting point. And when I started, literally, there were words on a piece of paper. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that they meant nothing to me. Did the Technophobe no more, got a little bit of knowledge, and then launched into boot camp, and my mind just blew. It was just so much information, to try and process and take in. But I learned that you do the one, you learn the one, and you get a little bit more confidence. And as time goes on, and then obviously chatting to Bianca, and Bianca just directed me wherever I needed to go. Looms are amazing. They're an amazing thing. If you don't know them yet, when you work with Bianca or train with Bianca, you will learn a loom. And they are the best things since sliced bread. Love them. So yeah, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And if there's anybody out there who's thinking about whether this might be the job for you, believe me, if I can do it, anybody can. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, this is really teaching an old dog new tricks, I tell you. And it's just such a rewarding lifestyle. You're working from home. I mean, I'm sitting here, I've got a shirt on, I've got shorts underneath with my slippers on.
As we do.
On the top.
Yeah.
Business on the top, fun down below.
Yeah.
So I recommend it to anybody. If you can do the training as well, it really does help. But even if you're not planning on going that route, just do it. Make the decision. You won't regret it. And thank you, Bianca and Addie, for all your patience with me.
Oh, absolutely, Mish. And I think it's useful for me to explain my history with Michelle. So I was a travel agent, more than 20 years. No, not quite 20 years ago,
but close.
No, 2002. Yeah, oh, wow. 20 years this year.
Sure, but yeah, but I always forget because you were there, then you left, then you came back.
I was there. Yeah. But I was a travel agent, and Michelle hated me. If I phoned Michelle, she knew it was something complicated, and that I was going to ask all sorts of questions. But but I think one of the biggest things that I learned from Michelle, two of the biggest things, is the importance of relationships. Mish taught me how to have really good business relationships, and how to nurture those relationships. At the time that I was at Flight Centre, we were somewhat famous for not going to trainings and not going to events. There were, and there probably still are to this day, a handful of people that go to every training event and every function and know all the reps. Yeah, and loads of agents that don't go to anything. And I'm still friends with the reps. I still remember my folks got stuck in America because they thought that a 3-hour transfer across New York at 7 o'clock on a Monday morning was going to be sufficient to get them from New Jersey to JFK in time for their 10 o'clock flight, which they obviously missed. And what was hysterical is I quickly went onto Facebook and touched base with the rep that I'd known 5 or 6 years ago, to go, is there anything I can do? Who should I phone? What's the best email to contact? And they still helped me, even though I wasn't a travel agent, because we had those relationships. And that was something that Michelle really taught me and that I really took to heart and has stood me in such good stead from a business perspective, because I've kept that with me. I've kept that ability to network and to nurture relationships and how important that is. And then the other thing that Michelle taught me is ask questions. Ask the questions even if they feel like they're dumb questions.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle will tell you, I will ask the questions that I know an answer to that I know someone else in the group doesn't, but is too scared to ask. Because, I mean, there was one area leader who would finish every team lead meeting and go, okay, Bianca, that's everything that we've got on the agenda. Is there any questions you have? Because he knew that I would be asking something. There was always something that I was questioning. But the more questions you ask, the more information you can gain, and the better you understand something.
Yeah.
And so it's the one thing you'll learn with me. There's never a dumb question. So Thank you so much, Mish, for all the life lessons that you've helped me to grow this business. And it's so fun to be working with you again. And I can't wait to see you supporting students, because I know that's your happy place.
It is. It is. And just seeing people grow and develop, it's amazing. Love it.
Absolutely. Yay. Thank you,
Well,
Mish.
I grow.
For sure.
Come join me so I don't feel alone.
We'll get you some students that you can feel like you know more than they do. Oh, you went onto mute. You're on mute. You tapped something. Whoops.
What's going on?
There we go.
You see, challenged.
It's all good.
Okay, thanks, Thanks so much for everything.
Okay. Cheers. Bye.
See you all soon. Bye.
Bye. So that is Michelle, and I thought to introduce her because she comes from a very different background, although we work together. Even when I was at Flight Centre, I was generally the one that people would phone to help sort out technical issues. I tended to just, it comes naturally to me. But I'm also very passionate about helping other people understand and share that knowledge, which is a lot of why I created Technophobe No More. And it's also how I found our niche. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of my backstory and how I got into this business and how I decided who we work with within this business, because it really ties into who I am as a person, as the business owner, and the kind of people that I attract to join me tend to be people with a very similar kind of understanding. They're not necessarily, they don't have the same background, far from it, but they've got a very similar passion for the kind of people that we work with. And this ties in very much into how to find your niche, and what a niche is and why it's important, which is what we're chatting about today. So a little bit about me. I grew up as a preacher's kid. Both my parents are ministers in the church. I was a performer during primary school. I was in every single Eisteddfod, almost every category in Eisteddfod that I could be in. On stage, I danced, I sang, not very well. I was actually kicked out of choir in high school. That's a story for another day. I performed solo, in group, poetry, monologue, you name it. As long as I could be on stage and having fun, I was there. So in primary school, I was a super busy child. But the one thing I did not do was sport. And the only requirement that I had for high school was I wanted a school that did not require sport as a requirement to be a prefect, because I knew my mother really wanted me to be a prefect. And I wanted a school that was a boarding school, because I really wanted to go to hospital. I wanted to be away from home and live at school. So I did all my research in what was then Standard 5, grade 7, and narrowed it down to 2 agricultural schools, one in the Midlands, one in the then Eastern Transvaal, and the National School of the Arts, which was a performing arts high school in Joburg. Fame was still fairly newish, and the idea of going to Fame for high school just sounded amazing. I applied to all 3. I got the auditions for art school, and I joined the drama department at the National School, what was then the Johannesburg School of Art, Ballet, Drama and Music. And I specialized in drama. I loved it. I'd gone from being the top performer in my primary school to being pretty much near the bottom of the bell curve in a drama performing arts high school. And so I had to find another avenue that I could enjoy at the school. I loved being at the school. I loved being around creatives. This was my happy place. But I wasn't ever going to be a top performer at the school. That was very clear pretty much in the first couple of weeks of being there. There were actually kids in my class who are still on TV now. So, I mean, I was never going to be that person. So I got into stage management, and in our standard 6, grade 8, whatever it is, just add 2 because I'm going to talk in standards. In standard 6, we started the history of theatre, costume and literature, and I fell in love. And we started learning, within that, we started learning the sort of technical side of theatre, and doing lighting designs and how color works for lights, and stage management and those sorts of things. And I got really involved in that side of the business. That side of schooling. I, in standard 9, was the first pupil stage manager for a main school production. Up until that point, it had always been a teacher. But the teacher was so happy with my skills that I had picked up over the last 4 years that he was happy to put me in charge. And so I ran the entire production backstage for Fiddler on the Roof, which was our main school production that year. Then we got to matric, and they couldn't give me colors because I hadn't been a lead in a main school production. So although I had done all the stuff, so school invented colors for me. I've always been pushing the boundaries. So they developed a stage technology colors. And basically, that was the colors that I ended up getting. So I loved theatre. I loved being around the creatives. This was my happy place. One of the things that they teach you when you do drama in high school is that there's no point in taking it when you get to university, because first and second year is basically what you did in high school. And you can't go straight to third year because blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so off I went to Maritzburg Varsity. I decided to study psychology and applied language studies. Applied language studies was because it was a new subject and it looked interesting, and I've always enjoyed language. And I worked in the theatre. So again, completely switched focuses, trying to find my place in the world, worked in the theatre there to pay for my drinking money mostly. And then off I went overseas, because in South Africa, when you grow up, most people that I know, you are going to get a degree and then go travel for a year, because that seems to be what everybody does. So off I went to go an au pair in America, and then the ticket was free to get to London, and I had to pay if I wanted to come home to South Africa. So I was like, no, I'll go do a year in London. Did a year in the UK. Well, yeah, almost a year in the UK. And I came home, had itchy feet, and very many travel agents will be able to identify with this in their life. Sort of once you start traveling, you don't want to stop. And I went off to go and teach English in Taiwan, met an Australian, got engaged, moved to Australia for a while. Then I came home, and then I started as a travel agent, worked a few temp jobs in between. So I probably about 3 years ago, saw a TED Talk by Emily Wapnick, which is called Why You May Not Have One Clear Goal in Your Life, particularly when it comes to career. And she coined the term multi-potentialite. And that's pretty much, I've embraced that. That is who I am. I learn a whole lot of stuff about something I'm really passionate about right now, and I take that into the next thing that I'm doing. So I've used loads of the performing stuff to, believe it or not, help me birth my babies, because you learn how to breathe properly. I used it to win a lollipop in a scuba diving course. Long story. I've used the performing side of it and the aspects of growing up within the church, of being able to speak in front of public. I have used the skills of stage management and those sorts of things to organize teams. But almost all of the businesses that I've worked in have been service related in some way. And so that is how I found my niche. So what I realized, particularly when I was working as a travel agent, is that I was no longer really around creatives, and I really missed that. I loved being around creative people, even if I wasn't necessarily feeling that creative myself. I loved being around creatives. And so when I started looking into this whole virtual assistants realm and those sorts of things, I was drawn to working with creative people. So that was how our niche for our particular business grew. I adore technology. I've always been an early adopter. I had online banking with the first bank that offered it in South Africa. I was using chat apps and ICQ in the very, very early days of the internet to connect with people all over. I've almost had a laptop as long as I can remember. Pretty much since coming back from overseas, I've had my own laptop. So I've always been very technologically minded and very comfortable in the tech space. So for me, it was really good to kind of marry these two. An interesting thing that I kind of started to realize, particularly when I was working at Flight Centre, but even more so as I got a bit older and I started my own business, was that I'd scored in matric when you take those IQ tests that are supposed to tell you what sort of career you should follow. I'd scored really high for translation, and I thought that was the most bizarre kind of thing to score high for. Turns out I'm really good at translating concepts. So, and I understand accents really well, which is very helpful when you work in Gateway at Flight Centre because all the foreigners come there. And so I was regularly translating broken English for consultants in the store. But also, I'm really good at translating concepts. I'm really good at translating something that is maybe quite technical or a little bit difficult to understand into a way that someone who's maybe not as technical can understand it. And so that was part of my passion and part of my niche when I started WAM Workspace was about helping creatives who tend to think in colors and can maybe be very big picture, but not necessarily super detailed, helping them to feel at home in the online space, which is very detailed, and helping to sort of bridge the gap between creatives and technology and vice versa. So that became our niche within the WAM Workspace brand. And that is my passion with VA Bootcamp, is to bring that information to the world, to help others understand how this community works, how this business works, how you can fit in. And so when it comes to finding your niche, it's all about finding what brings you joy. Let's go with KonMari. Let's go with what sparks joy in your life when it comes to work. So what are the things that you can do for hours and hours and hours and forget to eat or forget to pee? Or the things that you can do in your sleep. So what are the industries that you've maybe worked in that you know quite a lot about? What are the favorite bosses that you've worked for before? What did they do? What were they like? Who were they as people? Because you can target yourself to those sorts of people. A niche is not necessarily the services that you offer. Well, a niche can be two things. A niche can be the services that you offer, or a niche can be a particular type of person. But it's not necessarily that you are looking for a particular industry, if that makes sense. If the industry works for you, then great. But remember that it's not just, a niche is not just about what you do, but also about who you serve. So in WAM Workspace, our tagline is, we empower creatives to feel at home online. And that speaks to our niche. So we focus on online, on technology, on the internet, on that aspect of it. And we like to work with creatives. So we're looking for people that have some sort of creativity in their business. So we work with photographers, we work with copywriters, we work with coaches, but coaches that tend to be in more of a creative field. So in branding, we work with clients who we have a web designer, very creative, but she's obviously also quite technologically minded. But we work really well with her because her clients are creatives, and so we're able to help her sort of fit everything in with her clients and those sorts of things as well. And she can focus on the big things. So some of the ways that you can identify a niche that you can work in is to look at who are the clients that you've worked with before, what are the industries, what are the jobs that you've done before. So for example, if I look back at my career, I could work with travel agents, independent travel agents. I could work with business people who have a lot of international clients and need to kind of work all over the world because I've got quite a wide knowledge of sort of travel and the world. And it's not necessarily that I'm going to be booking their travel, but because I'm aware of sort of cultural things that happen internationally and how time zones work and how travel makes you tired and those sorts of things, I could be a really good support to a client who travels a lot. I could also be a support for hospitality industry because I worked quite a few jobs in hotels. So I could take that knowledge of having worked in that industry and move it into the virtual assistant space. So you have the opportunity to niche down either your services to offer the things that you absolutely love doing. And you can become a tech VA, a graphic design VA, a bookkeeping VA, a social media VA. If you love spending hours and hours and hours on social media, creating posts, posting, commenting, interacting with people on social media, joining networking groups, doing all of that on social media, you can actually market yourself as a social media VA and market your services to do that on behalf of clients. Obviously, you need to learn how to speak like the client and those sorts of things, but there's opportunity there. You can also then, on the opposite, you can generally offer a wide variety of services to a particular industry. So there are plenty of real estate virtual assistants who work only with real estate agents. There are legal virtual assistants who've got experience in the legal field, but are now supporting smaller legal businesses. There are virtual assistants in, virtual assistants who support sportsmen. If that's an industry that you're interested in and that you've got knowledge in, you have the opportunity to really look at what it is that makes you tick and using your own experience. And I highly recommend using the experience that was positive. So finding who were your favorite bosses or who were the people that you've worked with, clients, that were the absolute, you could sit with them for hours and just talk and just discuss and help. And you had no problem. You weren't checking your watch. You weren't wanting to know what was happening. You can, those are the kind of people that you want to get into your niche. So whether you're niching for specific tasks, because that's where your flow is, but if you can't, if there's not really anything that you think about that you could do kind of for hours without sort of getting up to pee or anything like that, but maybe there's a certain type of person that can do that for you, that you can sit and have a conversation with someone, and then someone goes, guys, we have to close, and you realize that you've been talking for 3 hours. That's how you find your niche. And there's a horrible American saying, because it relies on a terrible pronunciation of the word niche, but the saying goes, the riches are in the niches. And you have to say it like that, otherwise it just doesn't make sense, because the riches are in the niches. Just doesn't work. But there is, the more focused you are on who your ideal client is and what services you offer them, as in what is your niche, the more money you can make in this industry. Because finding your niche, narrowing down as much as possible, and only targeting the people that you really want to work with, means that you are in a better headspace the whole time that you are doing this work. It means that you are in flow, you're working in flow, and things just work better. And when you are in a better headspace, it is so much easier to ask for more money, to find more clients that are your ideal clients, and to work with the people that you want to work with. So I stand by that 100%. As we have niched our business further and further down, our income has just increased. And the more specific we get with our niche, the more money we are making in our business. Yes, our team has grown, but overall, we're actually making more money on the bottom line as we have niched more and more and been very specific about who we help, what we help them with, and how we work. And I think part of that as well is also part of your niche. So our team at WAM Workspace are majority work-at-home moms, and that's part of our niche. That is who we are. That is how we work. That is the kind of person that we are. We're not going to gel very well with a single wealthy male who doesn't have a family, works on his own, works insane hours. That's not who we are. We value our family time. We value our connection with our families and our other mom community. That's important to us. So that's part of our niche as well, is we are work-at-home moms who support creatives to feel at home online. And it's hugely valuable for you to spend some time figuring out who you are, who you want to work with, and what sort of work you want to do for them, because ultimately that is your niche. Who you are, who you want to work with, and what you want to do for them. That's all a niche really is. And the more specific you can get with that, the better. And that, ladies, and if there's any gents watching, is the end of Technophobe No More. We hope that you have enjoyed the sessions, that you've had some value and you have found useful information. Please do let us know if there's anything else that we can add to the program. And we hope that you'll be joining us in VA Bootcamp, which will be our intensive 12-week training course. It is specifically targeted at South African virtual assistants. We'll be going into a whole variety of topics during the 12 weeks. And we want to make sure that that you get a huge amount of support. We have a private Facebook group for all of our students where you can ask questions and you can network with everyone else who is part of our VA Bootcamp training. But just to go over what we cover. So module 1 of the course is VA Business Basics. We'll cover what is a virtual assistant, how to explain it to clients. We'll talk about your skills and your marketability. What do you really need to start a business, and how to find clients you love, which goes even more into detail about finding your niche. Module 2, we'll cover money and mindset. So we have a whole section on how to register your business, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what's needed, when you should do it, those sorts of things. We'll do an introduction to bookkeeping, both for your own business as well as doing it for clients, because that is one thing that I will say is, although I joke with Adrian that I have no clue what I'm doing when it comes to money, part of my role when I first started my business was to support a client with her bookkeeping, because she was really, really bad at following up on invoices. And my biggest win was in my first 2 weeks with her as a virtual assistant. I doubled what she paid me that month in old invoices that clients had paid because they'd forgotten about the invoice. So knowing the basics of bookkeeping is really, really useful, because you'll use it no matter which niche you end up going in, probably. Then there'll be a session on understanding your value, so to do with the mindset behind money decisions, as well as a session on pricing your services and figuring out the proper way to do it to make sure that you're actually making money off this business. And it's important to actually look at all of that together, and it's really helpful to have someone explain it to you. Then in module 3, we'll go into the technology, branding, and social media. We'll do an in-depth session on everything email. We'll do an in-depth session on making sense of social media. There'll be an in-depth session on graphics, as well as an in-depth session on websites. We also have some amazing guest experts. So Chantal from One Day Webs will do a WordPress basics course, including how not to break a website. We'll have Zenta from Champagne Moments talking about mindset and following your dreams. Lynn from Dress SA will do a course on how to dress to impress on the real world and online meetings. And then we have Nick from NKR, who has done a recorded session on legal compliance as a small business. So there's a lot of value. It's a 12-week course. Every week you get a recorded video, and then there is a live Q&A on the subject. So you'll have a week to watch the recordings, the recorded training. We'll also be giving away spreadsheets and scripts and all sorts of things that you can use in your business, so that you come out of your business on the other side able to support international clients, able to make more money in your virtual assistant business, and able to ensure that you are able to find your niche, find what's important, work with clients you love, and do the work that you really, really enjoy. So I look forward to seeing some of you in our VA Bootcamp training. Just so that everyone knows, the pricing starts at 1,397 for the 12 weeks. And if you want to include coaching and those sorts of things, we have a higher tier, which is 7,000 Rand for the 12 weeks. But that includes a lot of one-on-one sessions, as well as live Q&As and those sorts of things. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. It's bianca@vabootcamp.co.za. So thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on VA Bootcamp. Have a great one.